What's up, ladies and gents? This is KSigKid coming at you with another Destiny video. Tomorrow, the Vault of Glass is coming back, 390 Raid Challenge will be back, and that gives me a really good excuse to jump into the vault and hopefully, maybe, get my legendary Fatebringer. So what I wanted to do was, I wanted to go through what weapon loadouts I use for the various stages of the raid. And of course, I want to hear your loadouts as well, because maybe you'll inspire me to use something different. So just in the outside area, there's not a ton of stuff you actually need to utilize. Having a Dark Drinker actually could be quite useful. I like to use the Atheon's Epilogue as well, and of course, my full auto shotgun is going to get a lot of use. So in some of these clips you're going to be seeing my Suros DIS-43. It's the same archetype as the Vision of Confluence. At the time I was doing some of these clips, I obviously didn't go through the raid yet, so I didn't have a chance at getting some of this legendary gear. As far as the heavy weapons though, Dark Drinker works just fine because all you really need to worry about is killing those Praetorians so they don't get on your plate. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about a whole lot. So Dark Drinker, if you don't rock that out, a full auto Void Shotgun is very good. Or of course, you could get a jump start on having your Gjallarhorn on, or the Corrective Measure, which is always a really good choice. Corrective Measure is a very solid and very viable legendary option if you're using your exotic slot for something else. Though honestly, you don't really need the burn of primary weapons with the burn. Moving on to inside, once we get to the Confluxes and Oracles, you have two different things you could rock out. So at this stage, I pretty much put on my Vision of Confluence, again my full auto Void Shotgun. It sure would be nice if the Found Verdict was Void, but unfortunately it's not, so it's Matador all the way. And then you're still gonna be fine rocking out either a Dark Drinker, or the Corrective Measure, or getting a jumpstart on your Gjallarhorn. And we'll talk about the Corrective Measure in just a second. The main thing is with this loadout for the Confluxes and the Oracles, you want some type of balance. If I would rock out the Atheon's Epilogue, that primary weapon would be extremely inaccurate whenever dealing with the Hobgoblins that are far away. So having a sniper rifle as my special slot would help out. And then in the heavy, I could put on my Corrective Measure, and that plus my Atheon's Epilogue would deal with the Oracles. Corrective Measure would be able to deal with the various Minotaurs that come in, and of course, Sniper Rifle for the Hobgoblins. If I've got a more accurate primary weapon like my Vision of Confluence, then of course my full auto Void Shotgun can take care of the Oracles and the Minotaurs, and of course if you've got a Corrective Measure on for your heavy slot, that will help out for the Oracles as well. So why might a Corrective Measure be a really good option instead of one of those exotic heavies? Well, mainly because of surplus. If you're staying alive and you've killed a lot of stuff and you've got your Corrective Measure out, you might have a ton of heavy ammo bricks that are carrying double the heavy ammo just laying out ready to go for you. And that could really be a big boon whenever you're dealing with the next stage of this raid, which is the Templar. So whenever we get to Templar, things are definitely going to change up. Right here, I strongly recommend having on your Gjallarhorn. As far as a special weapon, you could put on a sniper rifle, but all your damage is going to come from the Gjallarhorn. Some people put on the Sleeper Simulant, but I'm personally against that. The reason being is, if you're splitting up with people on each side of the teleporting plates, the Templar is going to turn around, and if you don't have a critical hit shot with your Sleeper, meaning the Templar isn't facing you, you're not going to be dealing out that much damage. So Gjallarhorn all the way. You don't have to worry about where the Templar is facing. You don't have to worry about critical hits. You can just jump, burn him down, and it's going to be extremely easy. So I strongly recommend Gjallarhorn for the Templar. Now whenever we get down to the Gorgons, if you need to kill Gorgons, I put on the Raise Lighter. We initially tried the Dark Drinker, and honestly, there's really not too much wrong with using the Dark Drinker. There's really not too much wrong. Both the Dark Drinker and the Raise Lighter deal a ton of damage to these Gorgons. We just happen to have a little bit more success in killing them with the Raise Lighter. So yes, you might want to have a Gjallarhorn or something, but unfortunately there's simply not enough ammo in that. It's exotic swords all the way for just melting through those Gorgons. And in my personal opinion, Raise Lighter. Don't use Young Wolf's Howl. I'm afraid that thing will punt the Gorgons far away. Moving on to our Gatekeeper phase, I'm back to Gjallarhorn. So Gjallarhorn all the way for me, but if you happen to be one of the people that's out on the plates, you might be able to utilize the Dark Drinker to your benefit, because you can stand on those plates and then just deal with the Minotaurs and the Praetorians, the things that are just rushing right in at you, and you can just stand your ground, swing away at them, and they will die. But if you're going in on the inside, then Gjallarhorn works really well. I suppose you could use a sleeper simulant shot as well, but on this left plate, whenever you go into the portal, that Gatekeeper isn't always where you expect him to be. Sometimes he's far back, sometimes he's hidden by various columns and pillars, and it's really tricky to go ahead and line him up for a shot. So Gjallarhorn works out just a little bit better in those instances. But again, if you're on the outside, Gjallarhorn, it might be tricky to utilize, because you're standing on the plate, and then you've got enemies that are rushing at you in a really small and really confined space. So if you've got on your exotic sword, that Dark Drinker, that could really melt things out for you. So that might be really useful, especially if you're out on the outside and having a little bit of trouble staying alive. You probably shouldn't have trouble, but sometimes that does indeed happen. So one other really interesting thing that I just wanted to showcase is, you can see that right now I've got my Gjallarhorn on. But for the last battle, we are going to switch things up. So sometimes what you might want to do is swap your heavy weapon whenever we get to the back, swap over to what you need, which is, spoilers, a sleeper simulant. And then whenever this battle ends, you can see I've got 4 sleeper shots, and as soon as the battle ends, I then have 12. Full ammo comes all the way back. So that's a good way to go about not having to utilize a heavy ammo synth whenever you're at the final stage. And for the final stage, it's sleeper simulant and then a sniper rifle all the way. Now, if you didn't get your sleeper simulant, all is not lost. All is not lost. What you could do is you could utilize a black spindle and then put on something like the corrective measure in your heavy slot, because you're still going to want to deal with those oracles, and corrective measure will absolutely melt them. And then the black spindle, that'll still deal out an absolute crap ton of damage to Atheon. So if you don't have a sleeper, don't fret, because you can still deal out a ton of damage to Atheon with your black spindle. Now, I'm sure you've got those. If you don't have either of those, and those are both weapons that we've done videos on, they're questing weapons, you can go and get them at any time. Those are going to be your big time damage dealers. If you start shooting him with rockets and throwing grenades, he's going to move all over the place, and people that are trying to hit critical hit shots, they won't exactly have an easy or fun time of it. So overall, those are the various weapon loadouts I use for the battle and for this raid. And yeah, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of different weapons that I carry into the Vault of Glass, but everything is very specific. Of course, I want to know what you carry. Is there a weapon that you utilize through the entire raid, or do you just split things up in whatever is the most effective for each specific encounter? So Vault of Glass this week, and I always do like Vault Week. Anyway, guys and gals, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out these awesome videos. Good luck with your raids, your drops, your Vault of Glass, and I'll see you around in Destiny. #Monday Loadout.